So today I've had 8,000 milligrams of salt. That is insane. That is a lot of freaking salt, but I can explain. For those of you who are new here, I recently stepped on stage at the Natural California Fit Expo and I won first place in my class. Now, even though we brought a great look to the stage, we knew we can be a bit better simply by pushing a bit more carbs and sodium to drive more water to the muscle. That way I'm able to get a better pump because I noticed backstage I wasn't as full in the chest as I've been in the past, which gave us that reassurance that we can push a bit more without completely spilling over. But the only way to know that is by testing. So last week we attempted a mock peak week where we upped my sodium intake to 7,000 milligrams and it definitely worked, besides me having a bit of diarrhea, which definitely didn't help the cause. But anyways, we realized we can still push that threshold a bit more. So after scaling back a few days, we're trying it again, just a tad bit more aggressive. And the goal here is to wake up much tighter, much fuller, and potentially more vascular to be able to get a sick chest pump tomorrow at the gym. So this is all part of the plan as we're testing out a certain look that we're aiming for, being that I'm currently 16 days out from my next bodybuilding show. So personally, I don't know what to expect for tomorrow, besides hoping that I wake up a bit tighter and more shredded. And that's why I'm bringing you along with me. And don't worry, I took check-in photos and morning weigh-ins. That way we're able to compare both looks. This is like a science experiment because everyone's body would react differently to the same protocol. So I'm not suggesting you try this. I'm just taking you along the ride with me so we see what happens. So in case I die or I wake up bloated like if I had a baby in my belly, you know what not to do. So with that all being said, I'm off to bed and I'll see you all tomorrow. Let's go. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a bit thirsty. I guess it's working. Yo, I'm not sure how, but I got 7 hours and 15 minutes of sleep. I woke up like 6 times to pee last night, and I just took a little poop. Just a little one. Did a little one, a little one. All right, here we go. Moment of truth. Chest already looks fuller. Not as bad as I thought. I thought I'd wake up a lot heavier, not gonna lie. But that should give most of you clarification, knowing that when you go out to eat at a fast food restaurant, you eat something off plan, untracked, something that is high in sodium, it is normal for your body to hold some of that, retain some of that, and that's why you mostly hear you're just holding on to water. That is usually the case. So it's not to fear that you gained 1, 2, 3 pounds overnight. Unless you had like a 10K challenge, then that might be a different story. So, what do you guys think? I personally can't see the side-by-side comparisons right now, just because at the time of me filming this, I can only really see my visual photos from yesterday and today. And personally, I don't really see much of a difference. I feel like I might have been a bit tighter yesterday, being that I was a pound 0.4 lighter compared to this morning, but that could have been just different timing, being that I'm 45 minutes later taking those photos. There's a little bit more light, and all those things could play a big difference. But personally, I feel like just I look exactly the same, but I think we'll be able to really see the benefit and what we're looking for during that workout, to see if we can get that chest, to see more vascularity, to see that fullness in the chest, which is exactly what we're looking for. So at the end of the day, what we're trying to do here is gather as much data, and that's the beauty about being able to do mock peak weeks. But you have to be ahead and you have to have time to be able to do something like this, compared to if I still needed to lose 5-6 pounds. Well, I still need some time to diet down, being that we're only 16 days out, right? So the good news is here that Worst case scenario, we can always adjust. But what we're trying to do here is always trying to get that extra 1%, because if you can look 1, 2, 3% better on stage, well, then you're probably going to just perform and just look a lot better. So the good news is that I'm still alive and it doesn't look like I have a baby in my belly. Let's go eat. So first we get our steps and then we go into our meal. So today's game plan is pretty much stick to the same thing. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So what we're pretty much doing is doing our usual morning routine, simply because when changing certain things, well, you want to see if it actually works. And because we've already made that sodium manipulation, there's no need to start making other changes, right? Because we want to see if something works. When you're testing something, well, you don't really want to change too many variables. And I think a lot of people make that mistake, especially when trying to focus on their fat loss goals, is they start doing way too much. And when you do that, sure, you might start seeing results, but you don't really know where it's really working from the most. And what you're trying to do is get the most out of the least amount of effort. So for example, if you're creating a big deficit, you're doing a lot of cardio, and you're strength training 4 or 5 times a week, yeah, you might be seeing results, and that's exactly what you want, but how do you really know what's working? Is it a combination of everything? Is it really the big deficit that you've created through your nutrition plan? What is it? So why not focus on one thing first, give it a few days, give it a week, test it out, gather that data, and then you can start making adjustments and then add everything as a tool to help you get closer to your goal. So no need to make crazy changes once you've already made that first initial change. Just make sure you track and get that data. So right now we're doing our usual 3 to 5K morning steps, which is typically what I like to do, is kind of get up first thing in the morning and get a good chunk of my steps out of the way while I'm fresh, while I'm fasted, and then I break it up throughout the rest of the day. And then we get into our first meal. But personally, I'm actually very excited to see what the post-workout is going to look like after 2 meals, especially slamming some carbs, some pre-workout, and a nice chest pump. So that's what today's all about. Let's go get it. All right, let's do this. Cheers. For the gains, time to fuel up the pecs and get a nice pump. So starting off with meal 1, we've been keeping it simple, very easy. Starting off with 2 eggs, 2 slices of turkey bacon, some salt, some pepper, and some Cholula. And then probably one of my top 5 favorite fruits right now, we got some low calorie, high volume watermelon. The beauty about watermelon is once you buy one of them big old things, you probably have it for the next 2 to 3 weeks, depending on how often you eat it. But I personally eat around 400, 450, almost 500 grams a day, and I still have watermelon for like the next 2 weeks. Now, personally, like I mentioned in one of my previous videos, I love having a high protein, high fat, low carb breakfast, especially when I'm dieting. When I'm bulking, that might be a whole different thing. But when I'm dieting, just because it keeps my energy levels pretty high, I don't feel that crash. Coffee obviously helps me out, but typically I'm either working, I'm studying, I'm reading, I'm doing client work, and I want my brain to be firing on all cylinders compared to if I had a very high carbohydrate breakfast, whether it's a lot of bagels, juices, bread, and typically, or cereal, I would probably crash shortly after that. So if you're experiencing that, that can definitely be the reason why. So maybe lowering that a little bit and making sure you're prioritizing protein would be definitely a go-to. Now, if you're trying to slam in a bunch of calories, if you're not eating as frequently and you're trying to get your macros in or you're bulking, again, that can be a whole different topic. So it really just depends on your goals and what you're trying to achieve. But me personally, this just kind of works better with my schedule, and then we can kind of prioritize getting those protein and carbs pre-workout and post-workout. Now, one thing I do want to mention is, what if you're someone that doesn't like breakfast? What if you love fasting? That's totally fine. If that works with your schedule, you feel better that way, go for it. What I would say though is when you do break your fast, when you do get that first meal in, just making sure that you're prioritizing protein, and preferably maybe doubling up on the protein because maybe you're not eating as consistently or as frequently because you're limiting your eating window. So that's the only thing I wanted to kind of touch on there. This is meal number 1. I am pretty excited because I am working on something. This goes for my men's physique competitors. I am working on something special that hopefully by the end of the year, I will be able to release. And it's a whole module on how to become a posing coach yourself. So instead of hiring me or anyone else, right, and learning how to pose, this whole course is me diving everything that I know on how to get you to pose your best and perform and look your best on stage. There will be everything in there from routines, tips, tricks, everything that you should know and that the judges are looking for. So super, super pumped as this is like my first big project, especially in the bodybuilding world. So super excited to keep working on this as I've been doing this every single day and hoping to film maybe in the next month or two and get this out as soon as possible, whether it's late 2025 or early 2026. So if you're a men's physique competitor, if you're a starter and you want to learn how to pose, definitely be on the lookout. But time to crush meal number 1. One of my favorite things to do is grab some turkey bacon, dip it in the egg yolk. Meal 1, very salty eggs. Yesterday was like very salty. 8,000 milligrams, go make you feel some type of way. So good. I know this is kind of extra, but I'm not being me if I'm not being extra. And this is the truth. When you're dieting and you're in contest prep and you're not eating as much calories, this is what we look forward to. Because we're not done here. Most people would be done. There's no crumbs, there's no juices, there's no salt particles left. This is the reality of what ends up happening when you're deep into a prep. And personally, I don't feel like this anymore because I've been consuming a lot and reversing into this next show. This is just kind of like a habit now because no calories or macros are wasted. But personally, Cholula, the hot sauce juices, the egg yolk, the saltiness, we don't want to miss out on that. That's just a reality of what happens. And again, there's no shame here. I'll show you guys everything. You see that? It's like if a dog licked the plate. Ta-da! No need to wash the plate. Makes your life easier because when you're on prep, you are cooking, meal prepping, doing all that stuff. But now look, I don't even got to wash the plate. This is the best part. This is where it gets really fun. The carbs before the workout, and then of course, the pre-workout. So we got 3 rice cakes, a little bit of peanut butter, some banana, some honey, a golden kiwi, and then we also threw in the mix some cream of rice and a scoop of protein powder. So we got all the carbs ready to go. You see, shit like this just like excites me during times like this during prep, and it really gets me excited to get to the gym. So let's smash these carbs and get ready to use them for some serious fuel and a nice pump up to see what that chest pump looks like. I can feel it already. I just did my first warm-up set of lateral raises and the pump looks like it's gonna be very promising today. So we're gonna run through today's workout. Really won't be talking much, just kind of gonna guide you guys through it. Stick to the plan, focus on a side delt exercise to warm up the shoulders, get everything nice and primed up for our bigger compound lifts, hit our 3 chest exercises, and then from there, I'm gonna check in with you guys. That way we can check out the pump, which is exactly what we came here to do. So I kind of wanna just focus. I wanna move through this, 2 sets most of everything with some good intensity, not too much, just enough. And I'll see you guys for that chest pump up. I think it's gonna be a good one. Let's go. Listen, I know this weight is not impressive. Neither is my chest, clearly, but today's not about picking on G, even though he's been on prep for like 6 months and currently 16 days out from show day, okay? Today's all about stimulating, not annihilating. Let me be. And besides, this freaking Arsenal bar, it adds like an extra 45 pounds on top of its regular 45-pound bar. At least it feels that way. All right, the moment we've been waiting for, the reveal of the chest. Watch my chest be like so flat, just like goes right into my abs. I'm just kidding. I feel really good. I feel really pumped, a little bit more vascular, but let's see what that front pose looks like. Oh, baby. All right, definitely feeling good. Chest is definitely looking a lot fuller. I definitely feel more of a pump. Now, the whole goal here is to try to push as much as we can with sodium and carbs without spilling over or without losing that conditioning. Because for me, there's only so much we can push before I start losing some of that conditioning. And being that for me, I'm usually not gonna be the biggest guy on stage, and neither is my chest. This is something that's gonna have to be worked on in the off season, but we're gonna try and push as much as we can. But again, while not trying to jeopardize that conditioning. So if we can find that nice balance, then it definitely makes it a lot more competitive for me going up against bigger guys. So this looks good. I'm happy with it. Conditioning looks really good here. So one thing that I've noticed more than ever in this prep, out of the 5 years that I've been doing this, is that we're looking for that ideal look. Now, yes, you want to get as shredded as possible first. You want to lose as much body fat as you can before trying to get some food in and trying to look as full as you can while still keeping that conditioning. You don't just want to find a look while you haven't even gotten absolutely shredded yet and lost all of that body fat, right? To look your best, you're going to want to be as lean as you can to then be able to play around with some carbs and sodium. Now, right here, what we're really trying to do is, again, find that look for me. We know we can get absolutely shredded, but if I do too much, then I'm just gonna look pretty flat and I won't look as full and bubbly like I have been in the past. So we're just, again, tweaking little things, messing around with a little bit of sodium. We didn't even do much of a carb load right now. It was just more a sodium. Again, just one variable. So now going into show day, if this is something that we like, we're probably gonna push a little bit of food as well as probably mocking the same exact 3,500 extra milligrams on top of what I've already been doing. So I recently sent photos to Coach, and he actually sent me a side-by-side from the last time we did this with 2,500 milligrams, and then now that we did it with an extra 3,500 milligrams. And we definitely look a lot tighter in the serratus area. Slight improvement in the chest, but again, trying to push too much, maybe spilling over, maybe losing some conditioning. So again, knowing your strengths and me knowing that I'm not the biggest guy on stage, that's just something that I'm gonna have to work on in the off season on trying to grow in my chest. So this is good. This is good practice. This is exactly what we wanted from this. And now we just gotta check it off and probably scale back down a little bit. Can't just be having that much sodium every day. And then cruise into this show, eating a little bit more, making sure we're prioritizing rest. And in the meantime, let me finish my last 2 sets of side delts and triceps, and I'll see you guys at home. So what's next? First, we eat. Overall, I think today was a success. At the end of the day, when you're testing something out, it's always a success because you are learning. And I think we learned something about my body today. So that is why I checked in with Coach, and he actually wants us to do the same thing again today. So back-to-back days where we are actually pushing the same amount of sodium, but we're actually doing a little bit of a refeed now because, like I said, we only pushed and played with one variable, which was sodium. So now we're actually pushing carbs as well and some fat. So we push carbs an extra 100, so from 370 grams to 470 grams, and then 50 grams of fat to 70 grams of fat. Now, he wants me to do that with the increase of sodium, and then tomorrow, after having the same 2 meals, knock out a set of 20 push-ups, see if I could even do 20 push-ups in a row, and see how I feel and see how I look, see how the pump feels, take some check-in photos, and see how we look from there. Because like I said, what we're trying to do is find that ideal look, because at some point in your prep, you should be able to go about your day and be happy and walk in and say, I can walk on stage like this. So that's kind of what we're trying to do here. So that's pretty much it for today. I hope you guys learned something out of today's video. In the meantime, I'm gonna snack on to these 2 rice cakes to get the carbs going, peanut butter to get the fats going, another golden kiwi to get more of the carbs going while I'm making some rice, some ground turkey, and adding some coconut oil to add some healthy fat. So I had to call in an audible and kind of adjust my meals a little bit. And now I'm gonna have to go crazy on the sodium. But in the meantime, we're having this, getting some fruit punch creatine from Core. And like I said, I hope you guys got something out of today's video. As always, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you all in the next video. I appreciate you guys following the journey on the road to pro. I love you guys. Let's make it happen. Peace, baby.